Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the monthly BPM Change Management meeting. My name is Radha Madrigal. I'm representing the ISO Customer Readiness team, and I'll be facilitating today's web conference. Today's call is being recorded. These recordings are for your informational and convenience purposes only, and any related transcriptions should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. As a reminder, these monthly calls are structured to stimulate an honest dialogue and engage different perspectives. While we do welcome comments and questions, please remember to keep comments professional and respectful. We will be taking questions throughout the call today. If you were dialed in by phone only and not on the WebEx, you can enter the question queue at any time by pressing #2 on your telephone keypad. If you are connected through the WebEx platform, please use the raise hand feature located above the chat box on the lower right-hand side of your screen. And also please introduce yourself before asking your question. If you need technical assistance throughout the call today, please send a chat message to the event producer. We'll take a look at today's agenda. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss the proposed revision requests that we have in the initial or recommendation stage of the process. We will be discussing 6 PRRs today. 4 are in the initial stage and 2 are in the recommendation stage. And for this session, all of the PRRs that we are discussing were submitted by the ISO. So when we get to the appropriate section, I'll be turning it over to Michael Martin, who will handle the Market Ops and Market Instruments BPM, and Christina Billing, who will discuss credit management and market clearing, and then I'll take you through the change with regard to the candidate CRR holder registration BPM. This is an overview of our BPM process slide. The purpose of having the BPMs is to make sure we set forth business practices that implement our tariff. We conduct a yearly policy initiative roadmap process to consider and rank these initiatives, and policy changes submitted throughout the PRR process will be referred to the policy initiative roadmap process. So each subject area in a BPM is based on enabling specific language in the ISO tariff, and the PRR process is not designed to be used as a way to introduce changes that are not already supported by existing tariff authority. So with that, we'll move on to the next slide here, and I'll hand it over to Michael Martin.
Okay, good morning. Radha, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Michael Martin in operations. We have 2 BPM changes to market operations, and I believe 2 more to the market instruments BPMs. The first one, 1404, BPM edits to storage and distribution energy resources for ESDR phase 4, and why don't we go ahead to the detail. I'll just jump right to the detail of this one. So this BPM change is a variety of cleanup efforts from the ESDR 4 initiative, and it also includes changes to, well, a number of things, to how multiple resources are controlled, and also changes to the state of charge management. Now, let's see. We did receive comments from PG&E, I believe about 8 comments. We have answered 6 of them, and we're still working on the remaining answers. We've posted those answers. I believe they should be visible to PG&E and everyone. At this point, it looks like the comment period is expired. Again, we'll still answer the final questions. And I believe then, if that's appropriate, the next step still is to post the recommendation. Any questions on this BPM change?
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to ask a question, please press the raise hand icon, which is located above the chat box on your WebEx screen. All right, I do not see any questions in queue.
Okay, so again, we posted those responses. We did this morning, so apologize for the late response. Please review them, and we'll finish the rest of the questions. Okay, without objection, let's go to the next PRR. So PRR 1403 is changed to the BPM appendix that discusses expected energy, and this is specific for non-participating resources, and it's a change to how the expected energy engine derives expected energy for a resource that is non-participating. And it looks like this was revised language after the one-year EIM project implementation. We have not received any comments on this, and that comment period did expire February 15th, and without objection, next step, post the recommendation. Any questions on this change?
There are currently no questions in queue.
Okay, let's proceed to the market instruments BPM changes. So here are the two, 1405 and 1402. So let's go ahead and jump to 1405, the detail. So this is the partner change to that we discussed on market operations. This is the changes that are also related to ESTER 4 that are in the market instruments BPM. And the main change here was this change about removing the criteria for a resource to be a part of its parent company for this mitigation exception. This should be seen as a good efficiency change. I wouldn't expect any issue with that change. At this point, we didn't receive any comments, and again, the period's the same. February 15th expired, and same recommendation that we're going to post for any other recommendation. Any questions on this change?
There are currently no questions in queue.
Okay, then the next one, which is 1402. This is changes to how the cost recovery, market cost recovery and reference level calculator is calculated for extremely long start resources that require, I believe it's 18 hours startup time. There are significant changes to attachment O, and we did receive a handful of questions from SRP and PG&E. These were, our responses were posted, I believe I did it Friday. We've answered the PG&E questions, but the SRP question is still in discussions. We spoke to some folks at SRP, so those questions have not, those answers have not been posted, and we are still working on those. So other than that, no other comments, and again, the comment period expired, and once we get these questions answered, we expect to go with the recommendation post. Any questions on this one?
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question, please do press the raise hand icon located above the chat panel to enter the question queue. There are currently no questions in queue.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have. And again, we'll finish the answers to the remaining questions as soon as possible. Thanks, Rhoda. Back to you.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. All right, now we're moving on to the BPM for credit management and market clearing. So we've got Christina Billing on deck to discuss the PRR change here. Chris, yeah, there we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Christina Billing with the credit team here at the ISO. Rhoda, do you mind going to the next slide, please? PRR 1400 was revisions to Section 8.4.1 as it relates to market participant leaving the market or incurring any substantial decreases in their activity level. We went ahead and added some clarifying information to support our current processes and documentation for this. There were no comments to the recommendation phase of this process, and that recommendation comment period expired last week on the 15th, and our next step will be to post the final decision for this PRR. Are there any questions for PRR 1400? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody.
Currently no questions.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Christina. All right, we're going to round this out here by talking about the candidate CRR holder registration BPM. We have one change there, PRR 1401, so I'll go into that specific detail here. There was additional information that we added for CRR holders terminating agreements. Essentially, we added clarifying language for the CRR holders that are subject to load migration who want to terminate their CRR holder entity agreement. We added a new section to the BPM to further explain how that would work. Essentially, if you wish to terminate your CRR entity agreement, you must have 100% of load transferred through the CRR monthly load migration process. And then after that has occurred and the entity has received the load migration counterflow CRRs, then they may request to terminate their CRR entity agreement. We do some confirmation and validations to make sure that all of your CRR positions net to zero or are due to rounding. And then we transfer those CRRs to the ISO balancing account at the beginning of the next quarter. So we added some clarifying language. We didn't receive any comments during the recommendation period, which, like the other PRRs, that period expired February 15th. So the next step here is moving to posting the final decision. Do we have any questions on the line about PRR 1401?
Let's see. It looks like we may have a chat. Let me take a quick look. Yes, we do have a chat question, Rhoda. Would you like me to read that for you?
Yes, please.
All right, perfect. So it looks like the question is from Michael Volpe. Is CAISO still working on a response to PG&E's question number 1 on PRR 1402? I don't see a response posted. Thanks.
So on 1402, and maybe I did this wrong. Yeah, maybe I did this wrong, Rhoda, but I thought I posted them, but I didn't do it until this morning. So can we check if that's done correctly?
Yeah, sure. I don't have visibility right this moment, but Michael, I will make sure that the comments or the response that Michael Martin posted to the questions are out there. So I'm not looking right now in the BPM change management system, but I'll make sure that those are in there and get posted so that they're visible externally.
That sounds good. So, and just Michael, PG&E, we did answer your question. It's the one from SRP that we're still working on.
It looks as though Michael has his hand raised, so he would like to ask a question. Michael, your line's unmuted. You may go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, Michael, I was referring to the first question that I posted. There are two questions, and I see you've answered the second one of our written comments, and thank you for that. It's just there's a first question that I don't think was addressed.
Oh, cost verification language on page 23 was removed. Yes, you're correct. Thanks for that. I guess I didn't answer that question. I will get on it.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yep.
All right.
Michael,
Sorry to interrupt. Any additional questions? No additional questions, Rada.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michelle. Michael, thanks for your question, and thanks, Michael Martin, for getting to address that one, and we'll get that posted. I'm going to move back down to the end of the presentation here. One final check before we close the call to see if there are any additional questions on any of the PRRs that we discussed today before we close this out.
All right. I do not see any additional questions or any chat questions. So there are no questions.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, folks, thank you for joining us today. The next time we get together will be March 22nd at 11 a.m. to discuss the PRRs that will be in queue at that time. So thank you all for your participation today. I hope you have a great day, and we're now going to conclude the call.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using Event Services. You may now disconnect.